Hi, everyone. I'm Lily. I'm the president of the Solana Foundation. I first discovered crypto about 10 years ago in Shanghai with Bitcoin when it was just a Bitcoin world. And recently, about 3 years ago, got involved in Solana because it was my belief then when I first started using Solana that it was, and still is my belief, the only chain where you can actually have a direct relationship with consumers. So, you've probably heard of Solana. Maybe you've even been buying some of those things recently called meme coins. But I wanted to talk about a couple of things that we've been really building in terms of applications and experiences that are actually relevant to the everyday world. So, beyond speed, innovation journey with Solana. One thing we've been really focused on articulating last year, this year, is really thinking about what is only possible on Solana. And before we get into what's only possible on Solana, we even need to think about what's only possible on blockchains, right? But here's some examples of what we've been up to within Solana to demonstrate what is only possible on blockchains, and within that, what is only possible on Solana. DePIN, really hot category. We've been the category definer within DePIN. You've probably heard of Helium. They were one of the first. They've been a very substantial project over the last number of years, and they migrated their entire project over to using Solana as their L1. There's also Render, HiveMapper, and really category leaders in GPU compute networks, as well as decentralized mapping. DePIN is a category. Here's also a number of other projects that are a little bit newer, up and coming. I'm sure there's many more. And I expect this is going to be particularly relevant here in APAC, given sort of the hardware networks and a lot of the other sort of things that you really only find here in APAC. So look out for some of these folks. Meme coins, of course, right? I think it all started off with this fellow. And so you've probably been paying attention to some of these things that have been happening. However you might feel about meme coins, it is an experience that you can directly engage with on the chain. That's been incredibly popular. Another project that is near and dear to my heart, Drip. What we built last year is something called state compression. State compression basically made it such that you could take 1 million NFTs, spend only $100 minting them. And that is several orders of magnitude difference from minting NFTs on any other chain within crypto. And what that creates is it creates entirely new experiences, content delivery, ways that people can integrate with the blockchain and experience sort of content, art, delivery in entirely new ways that is only possible in crypto and only possible on Solana. But today I want to talk about a new category that we've been thinking about. We've been thinking about it for a long time with regards to payments. Actually, the simplest use case in crypto. So a few years ago, we launched something called Solana-Pay. And Solana-Pay essentially is, you call it a little bit of middleware layer that allows you to easily use Solana as a blockchain for payments, and people typically think about using a stablecoin, USDC or something like that, on SPL, our fungible token standard, in order to pay. Really, you can do that with any token, and that's a messaging protocol that we started about a couple of years ago. And to us, that was kind of V0, V1, necessary condition. But what we're thinking about now is new category, we call it PayFi. What is PayFi? Well, let's go back to the original vision of blockchain. The original vision of blockchain, as articulated, of course, by Bitcoin, is a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. That was articulated 15 years ago, but the reality of that is, despite the billion transaction roadmap that was written about by Gavin Andreessen back in 2013, 2014, it's just something that obviously hasn't come to pass in Bitcoin. And the next contender for that was when we got sort of the articulation of programmable smart contract-based financial systems from Ethereum. And a lot of, and they've done really amazing things for crypto, but there are some challenges with that, right? So so some of the principles of how you go from peer-to-peer electronic cash system and how you actually build that and where that takes us. So yes, you have self-custody, and we've all probably used this wallet before. Great start. And with self-custody, you kind of move towards programmable money. right? And so we've also probably seen this quite a bit on our browsers before. But one of the challenges there is because it's a couple of minutes to process a transaction, you click a button, and unlike in the Web2 world, click a button and you go refresh your Block Explorer, and this is just not a payments-ready experience that regular people are going to want to tolerate. On top of that, the vision is the open financial system, but what you've got is, yes, you've got decentralized apps where you can swap, but on some days in particular, it's a several $100 transaction, right? And so in the kind of vision where we're going towards self-sovereignty, these are some of the building blocks, but in actuality, it's a little bit, it is production, it's proof of concept, but it's not really scalable right now because of performance. So in our opinion, there are three conditions for us to start to realize the original vision of blockchain, which is the peer-to-peer electronic cash system moving us towards programmable money in an open financial system. What are those three conditions? Certainly performance is part of it, right? So performance, you've probably heard and you're probably aware that Solana is really fast and really cheap. That's the beginning, that's not the end. Block time's 400 milliseconds, and the cost to clear a transaction about 0.001 cents. Another way to express performance is we're talking about state compression. So what does it cost to mint 1 million NFTs? Those are kind of the two core building blocks of blockchains these days: fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens. So on other chains, it can cost you millions of dollars to mint 1 million NFTs. On Solana, it costs you $100 because we've invested in protocol adjacent technology to take metadata, put it on Merkle tree, so that you can basically with the existing chain, get this degree of performance. The second condition is we call capital liquidity. Said another way, you've got to have liquidity in a medium of exchange that people actually want to use. As much as we love Bitcoin, as much as we love all of the native tokens, we're not yet at a point where people denominate their lives in Bitcoin or sats or anything like that. People still want to use the fiat currencies because that is how they settle goods and services in their normal lives. So if we want to get into the actual sort of real goods and services economies, then you've got to have liquidity in the medium exchanges that people actually use. So when you look at Solana, we now are #1 in stablecoin transfer volumes because the chain actually works for the performance, allows fast and cheap settlement, which is what you need for payments. That's the second condition. The third condition is talent liquidity. Said another way, developers. We have the #2 developer ecosystem. In the 2017-2018 era of kind of second-gen general-purpose L1 blockchains, we've been the only one to build it entirely from the ground up. And have a very robust independent developer ecosystem that we kind of built according to our original vision. And so just to recap, three conditions: performance, capital liquidity, talent liquidity. Said another way, fast and cheap. You want to have liquidity, money that people actually use, and you've got to have developers. And up until now, at best, other ecosystems have been able to capture 2 out of those 3, which is why moving towards this sort of a scale ecosystem of open financial system, programmable money is something that's been somewhat limited within our ecosystem, within our industry, and hasn't really been scalable beyond that. And our perspective is that Solana is where this is actually going to happen. So what is PayFi? Isn't this just DeFi? So my thought on this is DeFi is all built around buy-sell, right? And buy-sell is very much the bedrock of trading, which is obviously a big part of this industry. But buy-sell is all around the trade, and it's not around a payment, right? People buy, sell, and they trade for very different reasons from when you transfer value for the intent of making a payment or settling, right? You're settling, and the transaction on the other side is not swapping for another financial asset, but rather you're using that to purchase a good or service, and that is the transfer versus the buy and sell. And so as we think about new financial primitives, what you can develop when you think about the payments ecosystem and the settlement ecosystem, so you can build entirely new financial primitives over what I would say is a much larger actually application space, which is really around the time value of money. What does that mean? So here are some examples. This is a consumer example. You've probably heard of buy now, pay later. That's been a very sort of high growth set of financial products in the Web2 world, right? And where you get a checkout button. Upon checkout, you can sort of buy something and then pay it back over time. In crypto, what if you could do something which is a little bit better? Buy now, pay never. Sounds better, right? So what you could do, as an example, you could buy coffee. It costs you $5. So you pay the merchant. But really what you're doing on the back end is you take some amount of money, let's call it $50, you put it into a lend borrow, and the interest rate from that over time pays off your $5 of coffee. Maybe it even pays back, instead of just $5, $5.50. So that's how, in crypto, we've always got to be coming up with primitives and applications that are not just a little bit better than what we get in the Web2 world, but 10x better. And this is pretty cool. Buy now, pay later, buy now, pay never. Another example, this is for the creator industry. Creators, right, if you've got 1 million views on a video, let's say in YouTube, that's worth anywhere between a couple $1,000s and call it, $20,000. So let's say you've got your 1 million views, and as a creator, you've got costs to pay for, right? You've got to fund your production costs, you've got to pay your team, you've got to pay your crew, and show me a bank which is going to give you an advance on your 1 million YouTube views. Doesn't exist, right? So what if with DeFi, you can suddenly not just actually get access to an advance, but you can even get immediate access to an advance through some form of credit pools online. And we already see that today in Lend Borrow. It's just not applied towards specific financial products or financial categories. Well, you could do that. Let's say someone prices my 1 million views at values that are at $10,000. I get that advance today, and I stream over time payments as I get those views in, and the ad dollars, so on and so forth, back to either the credit pool or the lender that advanced me that $10,000 to begin with. Again, this is not something you can do today. This is not just a little bit better. It is literally 10x better for creators, and actually starts to create liquidity and support an entire creator industry and monetization online in ways you cannot do today. Third example, accounts receivable. I'm guessing most people here run a business of some sort, and you've got your vendors, and you've got to pay your vendors in net 13, net 14, net 15, net 30 days. So let's say a vendor is a supplier 100,000 in 30 days, right? What you can do is the supplier sells that receivable to a credit pool for $90,000, and then when the customer pays, then they pay back the $100,000. This already exists. Massive industry around this in supply chain, for example. In really, it's a very substantial industry, but this is something which is not accessible at the micro level for a single company to easily onboard onto, and it's also not available for certainly an individual invoice. So to me, the value of these kind of new technologies has always been about how do you open up and organize and monetize a long tail of demand, right? Many of these solutions already exist in some form in the world. The business models are not new, but in the same way that we got, for example, the iPhone and gave us Uber, right? And opened up this entirely sort of long tail of supply and demand. It's my belief that that is always what new technologies do if they are valuable, and that is something that we've got to look to. What is blockchain doing for us in that regard as well? So here are 3 examples for consumers, for creators, for businesses. It's all around the time value of money, and those are the types of things we move from payments into programmable money, into open financial systems, and this new class of primitives. We call it PayFi, and if you look around, it is only possible on Solana today. Here's some more examples: payday loans, credit cards, corporate credit, even interbank repo markets if you look within wholesale banking. So, for us, we're always thinking about those applications that we can uniquely build, because we are that place where you have talent, capital, and also performance. And so that is what we're looking to next, PayFi. And so that's what we got to share today. There's a lot of things that are already happening in Solana that you're probably aware of, and this is what's coming up next for us. Thank you.